Hey, this is Anna Wolf, and you're listening to The Gareth Nelson Show.
Okay, we are joined by Anna Wolf on the Gareth Nelson Show today. How are you doing?
I'm good, and you, and thanks for having me.
It's only a pleasure. Now, we last spoke in April of this year, and of course, obviously a lot has changed since then. Please tell us what's been happening in the world of your music, etc.
Sure, yeah. The last time we spoke, I was actually on tour in South Africa on the winter tour, and I was still performing under the name Tailor, obviously, before the name change happened.
Yeah.
And I moved to London just before that in January, where I reside in Twickenham, and have been working with a producer called Pete Buxter Martin, who's actually a fellow South African as well. And Pete's been living in London for the last 20 years, and he's worked with the likes of Missy Elliott and James Arthur and JCJ and all these really incredible artists that I used to look up to, while growing up, and still do, and got the opportunity to work with him and be in studio with him, and so the Anna Wolf sound was born.
And what brought on this sort of changing? Or is it like sort of, can I call it like a sort of Prince change, metamorphosis, as it were? You moving on in your career, as it were?
Exactly. That's like the best way to describe it.
Yes.
And the first thing when I changed the name, that is the first thing that popped up. Is like, you know what? If Prince can do it, I can do it.
Absolutely.
So, but you know what? And the reality of it was, we were sitting in the studio, and it was just the right time. And a lot of people go, yeah, but are we still going to hear any of the old Tailor works? I mean, how do you now see your past? And the thing is, for me, like, just even taking out of the equation that I'm a musician, as a human being, we have to respect our past. But because of our past, how do we now connect to where we are now?
Absolutely.
All those dots that have connected to where we are now. So I have such respect for who I was as Tailor and the shows that I did under the name Tailor and the songs I wrote. But at the same time, knew that I needed a new name to represent the new sound. I mean, if you listen to the new Anna Wolf sound, it's completely different.
It
completely.
is.
I mean, you still get hints of, oh, yeah, that's Tailor. But when you even hear the songwriting and the production, it's just so new. So it was a very organic process of...
almost an evolution of sorts in terms of art.
Yeah, exactly. That's actually what it is. Yeah,
absolutely. And now, how does the audience react to it, though? I mean, in this day and age, people can be quite fickle. I mean, they've got to know Tailor and they've got to know that brand, as it were. How do they react to the new change?
I'm going to be honest. I was nervous about it. I mean, the work that I've implemented here in South Africa, where I'm touring at the moment, it's been hard work. It's been years of hustling. It's been years of trying to appeal to a bigger market.
Yes.
And that was my biggest thing, is like, how do we still keep what we've implemented here into this new season of? And we great campaign and a really great PR idea around it. Basically, just that was so successful that the fans just grew to love it. They basically just followed the journey of, and I'm very grateful. So yeah, it's been really well received.
And I mean, is it sort of, in terms of the audience, are they like accepting the new sort of sound that's coming through and buying into it, as it were, or are they just sort of treating you as a brand new artist?
So in London, I am a brand new artist. It's quite interesting.
Yeah.
I'm basically split in two at this point in my career. So London, I'm a brand new artist, but obviously they do, hear of the works as Tailor, and they can obviously find it on YouTube, etc. But in South Africa itself, when I started this tour, now the one that I'm on now, I remember walking on stage in the first show we did, which was actually a show based in Pretoria, and I walked on the stage. The first set was all Tailor work, and then the second set was all Anna Wolf work. And I was very curious to feel the dynamics and energy change in the room, and kind of get a good sense of where they are at.
Yes.
And the moment we started playing Believer, and I'm just getting goosebumps talking about it now, like they were singing along to each word.
Wow, fantastic.
It was just a feeling of, okay, yes, they get it. Here we go.
Accepting it, yeah.
And then it was no looking back.
And tell us about that song, Believer.
Believer really speaks of, I think my biggest message with the song is speaking to people who are, I guess, in the environment of domestic violence or are victims of domestic violence. And I think my biggest message with that song is When you listen to the chorus lyrics about she's a believer, you have to see her wrapping her fingers around the mic like a leader. Those lyrics, I think, speak for itself, and that not only speaks to women but to men. Any human being that's in a situation where they feel vulnerable and that they don't have the strength to move through the situation that they're in. I'm hoping that it would connect a dot for them to find strength in their vulnerability, to be able to move through that moment. And adding to that, it might not even be domestic violence. It might be a situation where they feel too vulnerable to move out of, but just finding their own strength to be able to do so. I think, that would be my biggest achievement with the song.
And would you say now that, are you finding the audience sophisticated enough these days to accept things like this? I mean, we saw it with David Bowie in the back in the day, where he'd reinvent himself almost going forward. Is the audience this day, I mean, people just want sort of music served up to them on a plate, or do they actually want to think about what they're digesting, as it were?
I think the game is completely changing. I think it's completely changing. I think it's like anything in life, even like fashion, When you look at fashion, the old trends like the 80s style is now completely back in fashion, and then they'll probably go back into the 90s or whatever it is, And the same is happening with music. The game is constantly changing, and I feel where the industry is now is people are craving authenticity. I think we're so faced with social media the whole time and selfies and this and that. And believe me, there's a lot of power, and it's a great tool to get onto bigger platforms and get your name or your music or whatever it is you do out there. Absolutely. But I think we're left very, very empty at the end of the day. Like doing this interview with you now, I essentially don't like doing interviews, to be honest. Like I hate speaking of myself, but I know that I need to, because how do I reach those bigger markets, right? How do I get people to really manifest what I do and see and feel? So, but at the same time, to answer your question, it's been really well received. I think that is exactly what an Anna Wolf show is about leaving people going, oh, okay, I do see the light. I'm a firm believer of the best photos get developed in the darkest rooms, and that is exactly how I live my life. It's through crossroads and so forth that we find the answers that we need. And hopefully my music would be able to give that to the fans.
And how's the UK treating you? I mean, obviously you've been there now for what? We've got good 6-7 months now. I mean, how are you finding it?
Yeah. So like I said, moved in January. It's been really good. Obviously, I went straight into studio with Pete Boxer Martin. That went really, really well. Also worked with a fellow writer called Dante Johnston.
Okay.
He's a super, super talented producer himself. It's been back-to-back studio shows. The fans there are incredible. I mean, the venues itself are just so different to South Africa. So that in itself is already brand new.
Yeah.
But it's been a really, really fun journey. I was actually speaking to someone just before, you gave me this call, and I said, like, London has probably done more for me in the last year than what I've achieved or what I have felt in South Africa the year before, even the year before that.
Yes.
Yeah, it's been good.
And the future for you now, obviously, I mean, where can people in the UK find out more about you, etc.?
Well, for now, there are a couple of show dates in the pipeline. So what I would suggest is people just to keep an eye open on social media pages, which is Real Anna Wolf. And there's some show updates there. I think from Feb onwards, my calendar is going to start filling up. There's also a tour planned. So, yeah, just keep an eye open on social media.
And any sort of collaborations coming up with other artists out there as well?
I have done an incredible collaboration with Jamie Morrison from Stereophonics.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
really excited about the track.
Fantastic.
It is Jamie's side project, so we're waiting for a release date on that, and I mean that's something to really look forward to.
Absolutely.
Other than that, there's a few more, but I think I would suggest just keep an eye open on social media, and I'll be soon, to release that real soon.
All right, well, absolute pleasure always chatting to you, and we'll catch up hopefully again in the new year. And we wish you all the best with the new project and the new name, as it were, and the new artistry. And it's fantastic music, so keep it up. And we'll chat soon.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the great interview.